Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new episode. I'm just going to give my calendula a little bit of a comfrey feed using my own comfrey fertiliser, and they're looking a little bit dull, so I thought I'd give them a little bit of a boost with some of the comfrey. But in this episode I will be talking all about my calendula harvest. I'll also be harvesting a few of my gladioli, harvesting some more potatoes, and I'll also be planting up a brand new lavender mint, and I'll be talking about what you can be sowing this time of year as well. So as you can see, our potato beds are a little bit weedy. We haven't really bothered taking the weeds out, although I might today take some of the weeds out which have started to flower at the top, just so they stop spreading. But I mean, obviously we are digging this area up bit by bit when we harvest our potatoes. So far we have just harvested one row. We are a little bit into the second row, and then there's a third row there as well. Now these are all Charlotte potatoes, which we absolutely love here. We had the 3 rows of Charlottes here, and then we had a row of Lady Crystal, and then a row of Arran Pilots just over the other side, which we haven't started to dig up yet. I'm really excited to see how they turn out because I've never grown those ones before. But Charlottes are a very popular variety. I mean, they're just delicious, aren't they? Like I said, we've already harvested one row. We are into the second row, and I must admit that the harvests aren't really that big. And I think I know what the problem was. When we put in our potatoes, we forgot to put any potato fertiliser down, and we haven't added any nutrients to the soil whatsoever this year, which I think is the main problem. So what we're going to do, either at the end of this year or the beginning of next year, is add some much needed nutrients back into the soil for the potatoes, and for the other crops as well. But yeah, the harvest hasn't been that big, and I also think the weather might have been a bit of a factor because we had a really dry spring. I mean, it was like summer, wasn't it? It was so hot. So obviously I think that affected the potato harvest a little bit. Let me just pull up a couple just to show you. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a potato at all. They are perfectly fine. There's just not that many of them per potato plant. They're actually getting a little bit on the big side now for salad potatoes. I always try and dig down a little bit deeper when harvesting potatoes, because you always get your rogue potatoes, don't you, popping up every single year in beds where you don't want them. So yeah, 5 potatoes from one plant isn't that much at all. But like I said, I think the weather and the lack of nutrients was to blame here, which, I mean, we can't control the weather, but the nutrients was our fault. And we will be trying harder next year with the potato harvest. But these will still be enjoyed. They're still going to be delicious. So yeah, we're not really complaining much. But what we're going to do in this area, after we've taken up the potatoes, and what I might do is maybe take up this row today, and then we can start sowing some more crops here, which we like to call the second growing season, because there's plenty of seeds which you can still sow now to get a harvest this year. So after I've just dug up a couple more plants, we'll go over to the bench and I will talk through a few of the things which we're going to be sowing soon. So this is another area which is a little bit weedy. The bindweed has started to grow through the paving slabs now and it's just getting everywhere. It's even started to grow inside my dad's shed, and even though I quite like the wild look, bindweed is never a good thing, is it? So I'm not sure how we're going to tackle that problem, because obviously it's all growing underneath the paving slabs. But yeah, we'll find a way. Anyway, let's talk about the things that you can sow now, because I used to do a little thing called second growing season. Because my old pot was so small, I used to try and grow as many crops as I possibly could in that small space, and most of the time that meant that when one thing was harvested, another thing was sown in its place. And with the potatoes, it's perfect, especially if you're just growing salad potatoes. There's so many butterflies around today and I just love watching them flutter. But yeah, if you're growing salad potatoes, obviously you will be harvesting them now, and you will have a little bit of an empty space. And it's the middle of July, it's the height of summer, and we've still got plenty of time to grow things. Now over on my old plot, I used to have a few rows of leeks, a row of Swiss chard and some turnips where my potatoes were, and it always worked really, really well. One year I even grew some Belotti beans and I grew some dwarf French beans as well. All were sown and in the middle of July, so it can be done. Sometimes it doesn't quite work. It does obviously all depend on the weather. If we have a really, really good summer and a late summer, then obviously you will get a better crop. But we can't control the weather, can we? But anyway, we've got a little bit more space here, and like I said, we're harvesting the Charlotte potatoes first, so we're going to have quite a big space there. What we're going to do is we're going to sow some more carrots, because right now we only have 2 rows of carrots and they're getting quite large. They're all ready to harvest, but we're picking them when we need them. We always eat carrots, always eat carrots. So what we're going to do is we're going to sow 2 more rows here where the potatoes were dug up. We're probably going to sow them over the next couple of days, and the variety we're going to sow is Autumn King. We tend to always grow this variety even when it's not autumn. They are just a really, really good crop. And yeah, you can sow them a little bit later, so it's a really, really good thing to do, especially if you really like carrots. Also in this bed we're going to sow some more Swiss chard, because we just have 2 rows and I absolutely love Swiss chard, so that's going to go in. Let me take these out as I talk about them. Swiss chard, and then again with the turnips. I think turnips are quite underrated. Like, people don't tend to grow them. I suppose they're more like farm fodder, aren't they? But I really, really like them, and they're especially nice in the winter if you put them in stews and casseroles and things like that. They are delicious. And again, another really nice late crop which you can sow quite late and still get a harvest in the same year. So I'm going to put some Milan purple top turnips in, and we also got some free seeds, some white ones called Snowball, so I might put 2 rows in, a row of each, when these Charlotte potatoes come out. I'm not sure what else we're going to try and grow in this space, but there are a few other different things which I took out of my seed box which can be sown late again, and they are kohlrabi. I tried growing them over on my old plot before, but I didn't have much luck, so I might try and grow them again because I've never tasted them. Yeah, and they look really, really interesting, and yeah, they can be sown as late as July as well, so still got a few more weeks to grow them. They're the Autumn King carrots. The other thing that I was going to try and grow was some pak choi, and that can be sown as late as August. And yeah, another thing which I've never really tasted but I've always wanted to try, so I might try and sneak a row or 2 in here, probably because you can sow them as late as August. I'll probably try and grow them over there once we harvest the Lady Crystal and the Aran Pilots, because they'll be harvested a little bit later than the rest of the Charlottes. The other things that we're going to sow soon are some more spring onions, because my dad's been growing his spring onions. They're probably too big to use as spring onions now, but he wanted to sow some more because he really likes them. I don't like spring onions, but he really likes them. And I did see you can get a winter hardy one here, and again they can be sown outdoors from as late as September, so a few things which you can be growing now. Obviously there's a few more other crops that you can grow, but this is just the bunch that we're going to try and grow this year when we take the potatoes out. I'm not sure what else. The onions aren't ready to harvest yet, so I think we're just going to use the space where the potatoes have been to try and do a little second growing season. Obviously you can also sow some green manures as well. It's something that I've always wanted to try, but I always feel like because we have little areas which are empty, it's a little bit odd just sowing little areas of green manure. But yeah, it's always something I wanted to try, but not this year. We're going to try and get as many crops as we can out, and then hopefully, like I said before, try and put some nutrients back into that soil this winter, or maybe next spring as well. Last thing I want to talk to you about while I'm sat here is some, a new herb which I picked up, got delivered actually the other day. And I saw this when we visited RHS Wisley on last Sunday. And yeah, I didn't know it existed, and I'm completely in love with it. So at RHS Wisley they had a little herb garden. Well, it's quite a big herb garden actually. But they had a little patch there which was just dedicated to mint, and there were loads of mint. They were all in their individual pots, which were then buried in the ground, so it looked really nice. Anyway, they had pineapple mint, lemon mint, strawberry mint. That bird nearly just blew into me. Yeah, lots and lots of mint. But then they had this one, which was lavender mint. And like I said, I never knew that you could get lavender mint before. It's the best thing I've ever smelt, ever. I love mint, and lavender is my absolute favourite, so two of my favourite things in one pot. And I'm especially excited to add the leaves to summer drinks. I think that little hint of mint and the hint of lavender will just be delicious. So I ordered this online from a company called Herbal Haven, which we actually see at some of the garden shows, and they have hundreds of different herbs and some really unusual varieties as well, so I always check them out when I want some herbs. This was only £2.10, and I think it's really good price for a really nice sized mint, and it came the next day. I think I ordered it lunchtime and then it was there the next day. So yeah, really excited to grow this. We don't really have a pot free. The only pot free we have is this little one in this chimney pot, which I'm going to put it in for now. I mean, it's not that big, but what I'm thinking of doing is just putting it in there for now, and then maybe getting a bigger pot, like a bucket, or a bigger pot to move it into later on this year, or maybe next spring. With mint, you can plant it out in the ground, but it's very invasive and the roots spread, so it's always best to plant it in a pot. And like I said with the RHS Wisley, they put theirs in individual pots and then put the pots in the ground, so it looked really, really nice. But yeah, I'm going to plant that in there for now and just keep smelling it every time I walk past it, because it's absolutely delicious. But what I'm going to do now is pick my gladioli, because they are staring at me, they are tempting me to pick them. So yeah, I'm going to give in some temptation and actually pick them to take home. So as you can see, the gladioli have started to bloom, and I am absolutely over the moon with them. I mean, they're just so beautiful. I think I'm going to grow a row of gladioli on the allotment every single year. They are just stunning. It's the first time I've grown gladioli in such a huge bulk. Usually it's just been like one or two dotted around. So to see them like this, it's really, it's magical. I was actually in a little bit of a dilemma with the gladioli, actually with most of the flowers that I grow. A little bit of a do I or don't I pick them situation. Because I love how they look so much up the allotment, and it's the same with the calendula. I just want them to stay like that forever. Like, I don't want to pick it and ruin the display. I probably left it a little bit too late to pick now, because some of the lower flowers on some of them are starting to die off, but I have decided to pick them. There's obviously a lot more on the way, but yeah, I'm going to pick them and take them home to enjoy. But just so chuffed with them. I'm going to go through a few of the varieties which have actually bloomed, and to start off is the green one, which is my favourite. I have a new obsession with green flowers, and this variety is called Prima Verde, and I think I planted about 10 bulbs like that. I think this is going to be the purple, which isn't quite out yet, but the yellow is called Nova Lux, and I think this must be, if this is the maroon one, then it's the burgundy plum tart. I don't think that's the cerise pink. I think that's the burgundy plum tart one. But yeah, like I said, there's quite a few other varieties to come out yet. There is a red, an orange, a cerise pink, a white and a purple to come out. But the purple was very nearly there. And the ones at the back there were planted a little bit later, because I had a few gaps there, and I actually had half a row empty, so I put some late bulbs in, so they're going to be a little bit later, which is quite good actually, because then that means they're going to be successional a little bit, so hopefully I'll have a few gladioli blooms throughout the whole summer. But yeah, I'm going to pick them now and take them home, but I'm just so happy with them. They are absolutely beautiful. I'm so happy with these gladioli, absolutely chuffed with them. But anyway, I'm going to finish this video just by talking about calendula for a little bit. I've always grown calendula, but always just in small quantities, like most of the flowers, but because we have this larger plot now, I'm sharing my dad's plots, there's a lot more space to grow bigger quantities. I'm so happy to have grown so much calendula. I've always wanted to make things with it, but because I've never had the quantity to do that, I've just never done it. And I mean, as you can see, there's a lot of calendula there. I've actually already taken 2 harvests from it, so this is the 3rd time that it's blooming this year. I think there might be another surge of flowers in there. There's a few buds that I can see, but I'll probably leave the last flowers on there for the bees to enjoy, because they really like it as well. And I think I'm going to have enough calendula to play about with. So this year I am going to try and make my own calendula infused oil, which is quite simple to make. And what I've done with my first lot of flowers, which I harvested, I think it was about a month ago now, I took them home to dry, let them dry completely. I think it took about a week, maybe 2 weeks. And then I put them in this jar. So it's filled this jar up with these lovely, completely dried calendula petals. And then all I'm going to do is pour some oil over the top of the jar so they're completely covered. And the oil that I've chosen is sweet almond oil. I got this from Amazon, but I think you can buy it from places like Holland & Barrett as well. And you can choose from a few different oils. I'm no expert in this matter, but I do recommend checking out a lovely lady called Tanya. Her Instagram name and her website is called Lovely Greens, and she specialises in making lots of beautiful things with herbs. So if you're interested in this kind of thing, then go and check her out. But I do know that calendula has lots of like healing properties. It can soothe eczema and nappy rashes. It's antibacterial, antifungal, anti-inflammatory. I also know that you can make the dried petals into a tea, and they're particularly good for sore throats. So I might save some of my dried petals for making into tea, because I do get quite a lot of sore throats. So that will be quite interesting. But yeah, I'm just really happy to be able to experiment with things that I've grown. And also it was a little bit of a surprise, because the original plan was to have a row of chamomile this side and a row of calendula that side, but the chamomile didn't germinate. And I'm actually a little bit glad that it didn't, even though I really love chamomile tea. I really love how that looks either side of the pathway. It's so happy and vibrant, and I mean the orange flowers, just every time I see them they make me smile. So I think that this is going to stay. I think there's always going to be calendula either side of the pathway. At the front, at the back past the apple tree, there's Swiss chard either side, which is also growing really well, and it's also still pretty, but I mean the bright orange flowers are just, they're just so happy to look at. And I mean, if I can make things from them, and if this is a success, then it's obviously one that I'm going to want to do every year. But yeah, really excited to be trying new things, and it's, like I said, it's something that I've been wanting to do for a few years now. So yeah, I will keep you all updated with how the oil goes. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop these all away now, put them in the shed, just in this little makeshift drying tray which I've made. It's just lined with a bit of muslin. Yeah, hopefully they will dry in a couple of weeks, and then I can start making the second batch of oil. I'm going to pour over the oil in this jar, I think, tonight, but I think you have to leave it for about a month for it to completely infuse. And then afterwards, I mean, you can use the oil, but I think I'm going to try and make some salves or some balm and things like that. But yeah, if not, then I've always got the oil to use, which I'm really excited about. But anyway, I'm going to tuck the calendula up for the night and then head home. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.